Okay, so for the five, in the resistance pattern, it's avoiding confrontation. It's people pleasing and withholding the truth. And that's because the five, if you have the five, it's an extra sensitivity of feeling what's going on in the other person. It's an extra sensitivity of feeling the emotions that another person is experiencing. Perhaps you've heard the term empath. That's really the five energy. So what happens is, since the five has this extra sensitivity and they can feel when people are upset as if it's in their own body, then naturally, people don't want to feel upset. So they start avoiding confrontation ultimately because they know that they're going to feel the frustration, the upsetness of the other person. And this can turn into people pleasing so that they ultimately don't have to feel the negative emotions that the other person is feeling. And then this can lead to withholding the truth, maybe telling 80% of the truth or 95% of the truth, but withholding those points that, do they really need to know that? But it's really just withholding it so that you don't feel the negative emotion from the other person. And it's like the five energy is also very intuitive in terms of the future as well. So it's like this ability to sense into the future of these different scenarios and being like, how's this person going to react to this? Ooh, okay. They could either react, a couple different ways, and all of them, they're going to be upset in some way. So I don't want to feel that. So, and that's what the resistance pattern of the five says. I don't want to feel that. So I'm just going to go ahead and not mention that, or not tell the full truth on that, or just tell them what they want to hear. And so this can create a lot of problems, as you can imagine. And it can also, as it continues to take further, is that people take advantage of them, because the five is just really doesn't want to stand up for himself either, because over time they're so avoidant of conflict, so avoidant of negative emotions, that they just get used to that. So then when someone, it's kind of like pushes them around, they're not used to taking a strong stand. So that's why on the other side of things, the genius talent is pioneering. And that can only happen from taking a firm stand and speaking the truth. So the five in the genius talent goes from, let's just say in the resistance pattern, it's this very soft, afraid energy that's, kind of like moving around, never taking a strong stand, and just trying to avoid the conflict and be in the happy zone. And as the genius talent goes on, it's the exact opposite. It's still being able to be sensitive. It's still sensing into what's going on in other people. It's still sensing how future scenarios can happen. However, instead of being afraid, it becomes powerful. And it still keeps those abilities while knowing, okay, what's the firm stand that I'm here to take for myself, for the world? And it doesn't mean you need to be, taking a firm stand on everything. That's not the case. But it's knowing what's your area for yourself that you're here to take a firm stand on. And two things. It could be an overall firm stand of your life, and it could be something in regular conversations that may or may not be related to that, all of a sudden something clicks and it's like, hey, I need to take a stand for this. Or a stand needs to be taken, otherwise the other person, the other thing is just going to steamroll. So it can be in the small and the big. But either way, it's taking a firm stand for what you believe in, and that is right, and then speaking the truth. So the genius talent here is speaking the truth, regardless of what people want to hear. And I'm not saying just to, be talking over people or just, spewing whatever you want to say. That's not the case. Wise mentor and friend Joseph always says that there's always a kind way to speak the truth. So it's knowing that, hey, I'm going to speak the full truth in the small and big things. And as a person, that becomes a way of life. It becomes easier to take a stand for what they believe in, because they're still aware of the emotions that the other person is feeling. They're still aware of what could go wrong, quote unquote, but they know that that's the stand that they're here to take, and that becomes very strong as well. And that's why in the genius talent, these people start becoming the pioneers, because they can sense into the future of what, say, the marketplace needs or where it's going. And they know that their inner values of what they need to take a firm stand on. And in order to cut through, in order to pave a way that no one has gone before, they need to be solid in the truth, because many people are going to try and dampen it, change it. And if the common philosophy or the industry or whichever is used to going in a different way, and you need to carve a new path, you need to be solid, and you need to be speaking the truth. Because otherwise, if we look at this on the resistance pattern sides, and there's no way you're going to pioneer avoiding confrontation. I mean, by the definition of pioneering, that's the base of it, is going into confrontation. And pioneering, you're not going to please everybody. It's just not going to happen. And if you're trying to avoid confrontation by withholding the truth, ultimately it's weakness. And you need strength to pioneer, to do what's never been done before. And you need the inner belief that, okay, what I sense in the future where this marketplace is going is what needs to happen. And that's why these fives, as they come into their genius talent, incredible innovators, incredible pioneers, and they just blast the way forward. And everybody later on is like, wow, they really saw where things were going. So it's important to connect to what you're here to take a firm stand on, and then step out into the world. Use your voice. The voice is absolutely key for the fives. It's not to hide behind writing, not to hide behind other people. You can still do a lot of great things with those modalities, but with the fives, it's a very intimate process as well of using your voice to take a firm stand and speak the truth and pave the way forward. And to also be aware that, okay, am I just sharing 90% of the truth, or am I sharing the full truth? And that's how you more and more be a living embodiment of your truth, of what it is to you. And you start becoming the firm stand. So it's like you're not even just taking a firm stand, you become the firm stand for others to launch off. And that's where the sensitivity becomes a great talent, because then it's a superpower. You're basically able to sense what's going on in other people emotionally, and sense where the market is going, and do what needs to be done regardless of, some confrontation along the way. And we'll close off with this, is about using your voice. Get your voice out there. Get it out there, and then the talents of this will become more easier to pioneer. And something to like an analogy that we can use that I got from Joseph is that in the resistance pattern, it's kind of like a fairy energy, very light, very fast, very moving, and it's like, zooming around, and also like a small fairy, like if you think of maybe like Peter Pan or something like that. It's very small, also very vulnerable. And that's in the resistance pattern. And then in the genius talent, it's like it still has the sensitivity and the fastness, being able to sense in the future and back in that of like the fairy energy. And then also when it senses into the direction that needs to be taken and the firm stand, it's like it transforms into this like rhino that just charges forward and just boom, charging the way forward. You can see it like through a forest with like kind of smaller trees. It's just blazing the trail there. So that's where it's important you don't lose the sensitivity. You're always going to have it, and use it to sense where to go, when to do it, and then boom, let it transform into the charging force that's moving forward in truth.